Howdy, 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 everyone. My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome back to another episode of Podio Commentary. Sorry for the delay in getting this one out. Last week, I got sick. My kid brought home something from school. You guys know how it goes. Kicked my ass, kicked my family's ass, but now finally a week later, I'm doing a little bit on the better side. And I wanted to talk about the Adam Project because this is one that, when it dropped, I knew about it. I hadn't seen anything more than really like a teaser for it, maybe the first trailer. I didn't do any read up on it because I won't lie, I was kind of in this weird, I don't really care much about Ryan Reynolds right now sort of thing. And the reason why is not because I dislike Ryan Reynolds. It's because I feel like Ryan Reynolds just kind of plays the same character now in every single movie. It's just Deadpool light. But going all the way back to, Van Wilder back in the early 2000s and even Hannibal King and Blade Trinity, and even, hell, going further beyond that to the 90s when he was in a show called Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place on ABC. He's always kind of played the same guy, I mean, you just got to get used to that at this point in time. But as the years and decades kind of continue moving forward, I was just like, all right, maybe, I'll just save it for Deadpool. That's the one I really want to see. And I know that he worked with Shawn Levy previously on Free Guy. And I need to watch Free Guy again because I watched the marketing for that movie. I'm a gamer. I have been a gamer my entire life. I love, battle royale games like PUBG, and I like, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, the Warzone stuff. I'm not a big Fortnite guy. Sorry. I don't know. Without the building now, maybe I'll dive back in. But I watched Free Guy and I felt that I saw everything in the trailers. I felt that I saw all the cool stuff in the trailers. I know the story was good. The direction was good. The acting was good. But what I wanted to see was the over-the-top gameplay stuff that I felt was completely shown to us in the marketing. And I'm wondering how much of that had to do with, let's say, Ryan Reynolds' team handling the marketing, because they did the same thing for Deadpool, where they just heavily focused on the first half of the movie, generally the first action scene of the movie. And I felt like because they focused on that as much as they did, when you saw it in context, the impact was definitely lost. And when I saw Free Guy, I kind of felt the same way. Now, upon subsequent viewings of Deadpool, I can honestly say that the movie is basically perfect in my opinion. I think that has a lot to do with the director on that one, which we'll get to when I do talk about the Deadpool movies. But in reality, I was still a little bit worried about Shawn Levy because, you have Night at the Museum movies. He's done work on Stranger Things, which I love all this stuff. But I did feel Free Guy was a bit of an underwhelming film. So the Adam Project being an immediate follow-up into that particular, those with that actor and that director, I'm like, all right, it's going to be more of the same. I think, I saw the trailer, the premise of a time traveler going back, encountering his 12-year-old self, and then having to save the world by, finding their dad. And it's like, okay, cool. It's going to feel like one of those 80s stories. This is going to touch upon a lot of the Amblin era nostalgia. And I'll be fair, it absolutely did. But I wasn't necessarily too sure how I would really, react to it, so to speak. So I avoided it until I got a message from a friend of mine who asked me if I had seen it. And then he asked me, he's like, well, I did. I loved it. And I had to call my dad afterward, and I'll fully admit, my dad and I have never really had the best of relationships. And I live closer to him now than I did. I have my two kids. And so I try to make sure they get grandpa time. But part of me is wanting to kind of rebuild that relationship that we never really had. So something like this, having it be about fathers and sons, I kind of tend to resonate more with those stories now. And I tend to find myself being drawn to them. So when I realized that it was that kind of story, I kind of figured what the ending was going to be going into it. If you don't know, there's already going to be spoilers in this, but the way I viewed it specifically was okay, we're going to look at this and go, obviously the father angle is going to be a big part of this. And that's going to be the sad emotional crescendo of the film. How is the rest of it going to stack up? Because when I saw the trailer and they showed the action scene outside of the house, I was a little bit underwhelmed by it again, kind of like with Free Guy, where in theory, it looked cool. In essence, it looked cool. In the marketing, it looked cool, but it just didn't really hit for me as a viewer when I was watching it completely, there. Now, again, let me just be quick to say I was wrong. I very much enjoyed the movie, so we can just start off with that. But what I think I liked about the movie the most is the fact that with this particular film, it starts off, it just like drops you right into the mix. It drops you right into it. You know, Ryan Reynolds, fighter pilot character Adam Reed, is currently flying through the upper atmosphere trying to outrun another ship who is opening fire on him as he's trying to slipstream through time to get away from them. He's clearly injured. He's doing his bit, you know, and it's got a good track playing. I forget the name of the song. I know it from the opening of Sing. You know, but it's a good song, and they end up, you know, going back in time, and we, you know, then immediately kind of like cut over to his 12-year-old self getting the crap beat out of him for talking smack to a bully. Obviously, again, falling into a lot of the tropes. This movie is not shy about how it handles tropes. It's not shy about that at all, but it's I would argue, like, the sincerity of how it handles the tropes, especially in establishing like the damaged young male character, you know, the young 12-year-old Adam, right? Father having died about a year and a half earlier, him still processing the grief, have not really dealt with the grief himself, but that's as a result causing him to like lash out and to, you know, kind of like just push back on people and talk back and, you know, just be annoying effectively. And because he wants that attention and he wants to process that grief, but he's doing it through self-destructive means. And then have, you know, him meeting the byproduct of that, right? What's going to happen as a result. And what I enjoyed though is as, you know, we see him with Jennifer Garner and she's trying to like, you know, again, be just like the mom, and she's going out on a date and he's like, you know, I don't know about this guy, sort of thing. It definitely, like, you know, I don't know, the vibe I got oddly was I got a bit of like Flight of the Navigator vibe. I mean, I know that dealt with time travel, but just in a very different sense. But I just got a bit of that vibe out of it. And again, this was trying to harken back to the 1980s, to the Amblin era. And it did very well on that front. And, you know, and I was you know, my mom was a single mom, right? I remember her dating. I remember the different guys that she dated before she met my stepdad. And I remember, you know, like them not being bad, but then it nothing really about that being anything good. So I could understand this kid's trepidation, you know, with having to deal with his mom going out on dates, because his mom is a person. She has her own autonomy, and that's something that often gets lost in I don't want to say these stories, but generally in these particular scenarios where a spouse becomes a widow or a widower or a divorcee or whatever, and they have to, you know, pick up the pieces to their own life while also trying to navigate that of their children. And they take on these dual or triple roles, and it becomes very unfair for them, really. And, you know, so I enjoyed just that little moment with him and his mom. You know, he's like kind of being a little bit of a dick, but then he goes, all right, you know, let me help you out. Let me zip up your dress, you know, and we'll play it kind of cool. And then of course, you know, she takes off and he's there and he meets older Adam, who's hiding out in the dad's shed. And what I like about it is they don't really spend a lot of time on the why Adam is back in 2022. They really don't. They just go, here's a 12-year-old kid. They establish that they're definitely the same person. But what I enjoyed was when older Adam, you know, why he needed younger Adam. Like he undershot his time travel jump by 4 years, but he needed his DNA to be able to get access to the time ship, because his DNA was injured. He was injured. The ship would understand that. They wouldn't let him drive, kind of like a breathalyzer. You know, it's kind of like the ship's like, all right, we can tell that your alcohol level is a little bit on the high side, so we're not going to let you operate the machine. But he's like, hold on, let me just get my twin brother over here, you know, and then it's not going to know much difference. It's just kind of like, all right, the DNA is the same. Cool beans, do your thing. But I mean, that was pretty cool. I thought that was a nice little way of kind of bringing the two characters together and setting them, you know, forward on the same journey, right? As a way to tie them together. Because it's not that Adam at this point could leave young Adam. He would have to bring him with him because, you know, the father passed away. Obviously they want to go back to stop time travel from being created, but not for the reasons you might think, you know, because the way that the world in 2050, where the movie starts, is not necessarily, you know, the Wikipedia here describes it as in a dystopian 2050. We're never shown that dystopian 2050. We're really never shown what happened as a result of Catherine Keener's Saurian, the partner to Adam's father, when she took control of time travel, all that stuff. Like there was, we never really saw what happened. We just kind of have to go, oh, okay, in 28 years, shit's gone crazy. Obviously the world's gone to hell, and here we are. And and if you look at the current, climate change trends and what's happening with all that, no, I'm not denying any of it. There are serious issues. You were kind of left to your own devices, your own imagination to imagine what that dystopian hellscape would be like. You know what I mean? That's effectively what they wanted to do with it. And again, they kept it very streamlined, very straightforward, very simple. Although this was a little bit different because it says, like I said, it wasn't about destroying time travel to save the future. It was about going back to 2018 to find his wife, Laura, played by Zoe Saldaña. She was on a routine jump back to 2018. Something happened. She didn't return. And then ever since then, old Adam has been trying to get back to 2018 to find her. And through the process of this, ended up back in 2022, meets his young self. Things like this tend to happen. And of course, as Saurian is sending her troops to take out Adam to reclaim the time machine, here comes Laura. And she had been laying in wait for 4 years. Kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it was a real Linda Hamilton moment when she emerged from the woods, just like blasting all of these dudes. And I will say, I really enjoyed how when you killed someone out of their time stream, it just turned them into like neon pink mist. You know what I mean? There wasn't blood. The bodies just didn't they kind of just poofed into dust. And that was really about it. It was a very interesting way of showcasing death and the violence that comes from these shootouts without actually showcasing people being killed. It's a way to keep that PG-13 rating alive when you've got headshot after headshot, and at one point literally pulling out what could effectively be known as a lightsaber. In fact, it's referred to as a lightsaber multiple times in the movie, and then cutting people's heads off, cutting them in half, things like that. So bloodless death, bloodless action. But during the scene, I was thinking about what to expect from Deadpool 3, because Shawn Levy, after Adam Project came out and it did really well on Netflix, Ryan Reynolds confirmed that they would be doing Deadpool 3, that he's going to be taking over the directorial duties for that. And they're very excited for it to go that particular route. I'm a little bit worried about that in regards to Shawn Levy, because Shawn Levy has only done like one R-rated movie, and it was just like a talking heads kind of movie. It was a family drama with bad language. That's why it was rated R. So it's like, okay, how is he going to be able to handle the action? But watching Ryan Reynolds wield a lightsaber for kind of like the second time with Shawn Levy, which tells me that we're going to probably get a trifecta, a hat trick in Deadpool 3. I was still impressed enough with the choreography, with the stunt choreography and the action in that scene to go, okay, obviously this is going to be in good hands. I think we're going to be okay. And again, I really enjoyed that whole scene. I thought the whole thing was pretty great because it really did establish the motivations of the characters in regards to like them wanting to find each other, them being in love. I thought that was a nice reunion. But of course, in all of these movies, all of that stuff is absolutely short-lived. And in regards to that, like they have this great chase sequence in a Bronco, in a Ford Bronco, right? This time not on an LA highway, but through the woods. And, being chased on dudes with speeder bikes. Again, lots of Star Wars references, basically. That was a great sequence, but they end up out in like a cabin by the lake or by the Puget Sound, because they're in the Northwest, I think, and it's like this lone cabin in the middle of nowhere that she's been hiding out in for 4 years, waiting to see what Adam might do, if Adam's ever going to come get her. And then she's like, look, we need to get you back to 2018. You need to stop time travel from being made, and we'll find each other. I love you. We'll find each other. Because of course, she's going to sacrifice herself. Now, I mean, like I said, this movie does not lighten up on the tropes. It doesn't lighten up on the tropes. It's just every trope you could possibly freaking imagine is practically on display in such a way that you can predict everything that's going to happen as it's going to happen. And I think it works out pretty well for what they were trying to go for. So, I mean, obviously, there's a shootout at the cabin. Adam get away as Saurian and her guys show up. Saurian ends up killing Laura, as it was going to happen. Adam has to assume that she is dead, but he never really kind of like processes it in the moment, because they go back to 2018. They find Lewis, their dad, played by Mark Ruffalo. And of course, he does the Doc Brown bit from Back to the Future, like, Marty, I don't need to know anything about the future, Marty. I can't know anything. Don't tell me. I mean, like, obviously playing up that angle, because if you haven't invented time travel yet, you're going to be very fearful of what the consequences might be. But what I found to be very fascinating about this, again, and this is where like the trope was there, but they kind of like turned it on its ear. They did kind of reference Back to the Future 2 a little bit. Back to the Future 2, the alternate 1985 bit, was brought up in Avengers Endgame as well. And it's, and when you talk about time travel and pop culture, 1984, the alternate 1985 is kind of an overused trope. In this case, though, it already happened. They were in the alternate 1985. They didn't have to go to another time after screwing it up. It was already screwed up. That I thought was actually pretty cool, because they figured out that Saurian had gone back and told herself what was going to happen to allow her to have the knowledge and the money to be able to 100% control time travel and make sure that no governmental agency gets in her way. We're talking like supreme control. So they were already in the alternate 1985. So that was actually kind of cool that they had come back to stop it. And that was a bit of a, all right. I didn't really see that 100% coming. I knew something like that was going to happen, especially when we, had a scene with old Catherine Keener and younger de-aged Catherine Keener, which looked terrible, by the way. Like, for de-aging technology, it's like you can deep fake that shit now, and it can look a lot better. You can get apps on your phone that will do it better than what happened here. This movie has a $116 million budget. Did it all go to Ryan Reynolds? That's my question. Did it all go to Ryan Reynolds? Because like the deep fake tech is a lot better than what this showed us. And Netflix has very deep pockets. So I don't know, go on YouTube, find some deep fake people, hire them, because they would have been better than whatever the hell this was that we got. If Spider-Man No Way Home can go back and update visual effect shots after the movie has already been released in theaters, in order to make it a more complete experience after everyone has already dropped their cash, I think Netflix can 100% do the same. Anyway, I digress. It's a moot point, really. It's a very small annoyance with the movie. Out of everything that was good, Catherine Keener's, de-aging was not the greatest. But of course, they try to get the dad on board. The dad's like, no, I can't do it. Obviously, the pushback, the everything else, doesn't want to know what happens. Doesn't want to know that he dies, doesn't want to know how he dies, doesn't want to know anything. Later on, he says he kind of figured something like that would have happened because they both came back, the 4-year older version of Adam, and then also, a 32-year older version of Adam at that point in time. Obviously, like, he would have been like, yeah, something's going on here. But in the meantime, he's trying to lie to himself about it. He's trying to very much like just not play into that, because he's worried about like what could go wrong. But obviously, he comes back and he has a conversation with Jennifer Garner, his wife, and they look at young 8-year-old Adam, and he just kind of has that realization about like, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should stop this thing from happening, not knowing what the future will bring, but obviously this may be like, I've made mistakes and we can solve it now. Then of course that takes us to like the finale of the movie. And again, this is a very streamlined, straightforward film. They go to the Saurian campus. Not a single person is there. Not a single effing person is on this campus. That was the weirdest thing about this movie, is like, in many instances, it feels like the world is not very populated. Like, they go to the college that there were kids in the class and there were some people on campus. Maybe because they were filming this during COVID-19, they just wanted to like have fewer people that were there. But I felt like even going to the campus, I know maybe Saurian cleared it was kind of the idea, but I still feel that was a little bit too on the nose, because of course, as they're getting ready to go on in, a whole bunch of bad guys show up, and then young Adam has got a drone. And keep in mind that his dad made this, fighter pilot video game for him, because he's kind of antisocial when he was younger. And so so that's what Adam's been playing. So he's really good at it. So he's good at video games, like Last Starfightering this shit a little bit. Again, noticing a bit of a trend, a bit of a pattern, some things like that. And then of course he takes all those guys out with the, with the drone. And then they Lewis shows up and he's like, well, maybe I should help out my kids or whatever. And they go in and, they're going to like, stop this thing from happening, remove the hard drive is how they describe it. And then, hey, like the battle ensues. Soren is there, both old and young Saurian. Like they fight every there's a big battle sequence with an electric, electromagnet. That's right there. That part's pretty cool. What I will say, what I enjoyed about the final fight scene in the movie was the fact that they played Boston. I think I should be going. I forget the name of the song right now, but like they played, I mean, it wasn't just like getting to like the crescendo of the song, what everyone knows. Like, dun like, we all know that, but it's like they actually did the long introduction and they used it to establish tension, which was really interesting because at that point, like there was a crack already in the magnet. One of the bad guys had grabbed young Adam and had, like basically flown back and they were stuck to the magnet. And old Adam was like, trying to figure out what they were going to do. And I was like, it was building up to this fight scene. And I thought the use of Boston in that moment was actually pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. And of course, everybody fights. Everyone, the bad guys lose. Young Adam gets the lightsaber, use it to like force push himself up onto this next railing again. Shawn Levy will one day direct a Star Wars movie. I'm calling that right now. That Levy will 100% end up directing a Star Wars movie. And then after that, this was great. I thought this was awesome. You can totally see this coming again. How the bad guy is vanquished. You've got old Catherine Keener, old Saurian holding a gun, pointing it at Mark Ruffalo, at Lewis. He stands in front of, his kids and he's like, you got to go through me. And then it's like, yeah, those are armor piercing rounds. Like she's going to shred both of us if that happens. And then right in between them, right in front of the magnetic device is young Catherine Keener. And so when old Saurian fires off the shot, the armor piercing round full of a metal core gets sucked in and takes out young Saurian, kills them both in the process and destroys the concept of time travel. And he's like, yeah, I knew the thing had a metal core in it. It would have worked. Haha. Sometimes it pays to be a nerd. Like it's totally on the nose in regards to how they pulled it off, but it was cute. It was cute in a PG-13 80s family film sci-fi sort of way. Like because the rest of the movie is so good natured and the rest of the movie is so fun to watch and it's just entertaining. Those little moments, which might in other circumstances make me roll my eyes and just go, why is this terrible? This is one of those ones that didn't happen for me. I didn't have that issue at all. I was like, all right, I'm actually pretty on board with this all the way through. But what I have to say that I loved was how it ended. And there's two parts to that. So obviously they saved the day. Obviously they need to send young Adam back to 2022, old Adam back to 2050. And the difference between that is like, the way that Adam described it is right now they have separate memories, but when they go back and they reintegrate into the sacred timeline is kind of the best way to describe it, then those memories will merge effectively. And so, that's kind of the whole thing. Where in this particular case, though, because they also, kind of destroyed alternate 1985, certain things are going to change. And, as they're getting ready to leave, old Adam is upset at his dad for dying when he was 11 years old. And he's been harboring that anger, that rage, feeling like he was abandoned, that he was left behind. And then you got this really nice moment with Mark Ruffalo telling, Ryan Reynolds, like, no, you're enough. You're enough. You were always enough. I love you. And it's just like this father embracing his son. And it was a really nice, really sweet moment. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was just wonderful. Again, the acting was great. The emotion was there. And at that point, any other problem you might have with this movie, I think kind of goes away. I think it kind of goes away because you're caught up in the moment of this. And again, it's such a nice thing to see, this idea of trying to repair a father-son relationship. And then they go and they play catch. And then they do the sad thing of where the ball goes kind of past Mark Ruffalo. He turns to go and get it. And as he turns around, they're gone, and like the camera kind of pulls out. And let me complain about one thing real quick. I know that the entire backyard to this house was a set. There's no way it would be that clean and be that well lit to not be a set, especially to have that kind of action there. It doesn't take me out of the movie, but it was something that I just noticed. It was just a little thing that I noticed. We do get a final scene with young Adam and his mom, Jennifer Garner, and it was like, I thought that when he went back to 2022, like, look, the dad, Lewis, he knew he was going to die. He doesn't know how, he doesn't know when, but like you figured, that they would have done. See, I thought when I was watching the movie, again, trope would have been not only did Sorian kill Laura, but Sorian also killed Lewis to get him out of the way so she could assume all of that control. She never did. So his death was in fact an accident. And maybe that's one of those things where it's like, it doesn't matter how much you alter the past, predetermined fate. And it could be one of those arguments. And the movie never really actually makes that argument, but it's one of those ones as an audience member, you might stop and kind of think about, like, could there be a way to solve it? Go back to watch, or not watch or read The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, and when he goes back and he's trying to save his wife hundreds and hundreds of times, and it's always the same outcome. She always dies. It's a predetermined fate. And that's essentially what the movie kind of hints at without outright telling you, which I was like, all right, I was a little disappointed. I thought, if you're going to give us a happy ending, give us the full happy ending. All right. Give us, give us the happy ending we all want after watching this movie. It's a feel good movie. Let us walk out feeling even better, but they don't, they let him die, and they let Adam, process that a lot better. Adam have those memories. But then of course, cutting into Adam down the road years and years and years later at flight school, when he meets Laura from the first time, why doesn't he have the memory of what happened? Why does, did 2012 Adam have the memory of everything? Probably not, because when they went back into their timeline, like I said, the memories reestablished, it would have, because they changed the future, it would have snapped back to 8-year-old Adam. So the events of Lewis's death still happened, but Adam was able to process it a lot better. He got that extra time with his dad leading up to the death. His dad knew what was going to happen. So his dad probably made sure to spend more time with him, to let him know that he was loved, so he would have that more well-adjusted childhood. And then of course we get the final shot of the movie. Adam's in flight school many, 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 many years later. Here comes Laura. They have a conversation. They flirt. Remember, her whole thing is all about re-entry. That's her specialty. And without time travel, she doesn't need to be in that particular class that he is in. But they were able to find each other. Fate brought them back together. And from there, the movie ends. And, it's a feel-good ending. It's a feel-good movie. It's a very simple, very straightforward, film. I couldn't tell you how well this thing would have done if it would have gone to theaters. I think maybe it would have done, like, Free Guy had the video game angle to it. It had cameos from different, YouTubers and whatnot. This was a very personal, straightforward story that I think would have done well with general audiences. But it's fine on Netflix. It's a fine streaming movie. I don't know if I would have gone to see this in the theater unless people I knew were telling me about it. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, my whole take with Free Guy and Shawn Levy and Ryan Reynolds, I was kind of like, and Ryan Reynolds in general, I just wasn't ready to dive into that. Never mind Red Notice, which I thought was just a mediocre film. Reynolds, to me, had kind of hit this wall. This really reinvigorated him for me, and I know he's taking a little bit of a break from acting right now until he comes back for Deadpool 3. And I'm really excited for that, especially now after, watching these two artists work together and both grow together. I'm excited to see what happens with an R-rated MCU Deadpool 3. Very excited for that one. However, what did you guys think about this movie? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Let me know. Follow me on social media. On Twitter, I'm at Matt Jarbo, or at mjarbo. On Instagram and TikTok, I am at real Matt Jarbo. On YouTube, it's the Podio commentary channel. You find me on $3 Theater. I do Hollywood After Dark, a mostly nightly live stream talking about pop culture and movies and everything. And if you have a movie you want me to take a look at, you want to get my thoughts on, let me know. Thank you very much for listening. Have yourself a great day. Thank you again, and peace out.